A very lovely good evening to all of you. I am Dr. Pooja Johari, your biochemistry educator. So today we'll start up with a very interesting topic, lipid metabolism. Now first of all, what are we going to cover up in this topic? See, what are lipids? Lipids, we all know they are the biomolecules which are insoluble in water. And since if they are insoluble in water, they are soluble in non-polar solvents. And this one very important property of lipids makes it altogether a different entity in terms of metabolism, because we have studied carbs metabolism, we have studied protein metabolism. Carbs and proteins both are highly soluble in water, so their metabolism is altogether different from lipids just because of this reason. And we call lipids as TGs because they are what? They are the triesters of fatty acid and glycerol. What are fatty acids? If we have to define fatty acids, they are those organic compounds where one end is masked by a hydrocarbon and the other end is masked by a carboxylic acid, or it is hydrophilic. This is water loving, this is water hating. What is glycerol? Glycerol is a trihydric alcohol. So when three molecules of fatty acids combined with one molecule of glycerol, what we get is, we get TGs or triglycerides. We can call them as neutral fats also, right? And just because of this alcohol or glycerol and fatty acids, they are having, if we look at the classification, they are of three types, right? They are simple lipids, they are conjugate lipids, and they are derived lipids, right? I won't be taking the classification in detail because this we have already covered in the chemistry of lipids. Here we will be targeting only the metabolism of lipids. So here, whenever we talk about the metabolism of lipids, conjugate lipids plays a very, very important role, because under this class comes lipoproteins. Other examples are also there of conjugate lipids, like phospholipids are there, sphingolipids are there, glycolipids are there. But whenever we talk about the metabolism, lipoproteins are there, right? So our main target will be focusing on this. Now see, as the word suggests, lipoproteins, what it means is lipid plus protein. So if we say just the protein part is known as a apoprotein, but when this apoprotein combines with lipid, it is known as a lipoprotein. Now what is the use of the lipoproteins? Why it is required? Just because of one simple reason, that these lipids are insoluble in water, so whenever they have to move in circulation, they will require a carrier protein, right? So we can say that in circulation, they will always require a carrier protein. And what is this carrier protein? This is basically a apoprotein. So there are so many different classes of apoproteins, right? Now the most important type of apoproteins are ApoB48 and ApoB100. Right? Now see, there are different classes, like if I talk about apoproteins only, ApoC1 is there, ApoC2 is there, ApoA1, ApoA2 is there. But whenever we talk about this ApoB48, you can see 48 and 100 because there is a kind of measurement assigned to them, and that is what exactly, because the structure is already characterized, it has been already elucidated. And this ApoB48 is a specific apoprotein for chylomicrons. I'll come to that, what are chylomicrons, and ApoB100 is for VLDL and LDL. Now coming over to these lipoproteins, what are the different type of lipoproteins? So broadly we say that there are 4 type of lipoproteins: chylomicrons, VLDL, LDL and HDL. Now VLDL stands for very low density lipoproteins. LDL, as it is clear from the word itself, low density lipoproteins. H stands for heavy, so it is heavy density or high density lipoproteins. Right? There is one more class of this. This VLDL forms LDL. LDL is synthesized in the body from VLDL, taking IDL as one of the intermediate. IDL, which stands for intermediary density lipoproteins. As it is clear from the word itself, intermediary means in between. So whenever the body synthesizes LDL from VLDL, IDL is synthesized as one of the major intermediates. So technically there are 4, but one more is there which is synthesized when VLDL is converted into LDL. Right? So now what is the difference between all the 4 type of lipoproteins? These chylomicrons are laden with fats, means high fat content in them. So obviously if they have maximum fat content, protein content will be less. On the contrary, HDL will have less fat content, so obviously it will have more protein content. So this is how they are classified, right? So obviously if something is, and if we talk about the movement also, if something is more fat, if it has more fat content, it will take a longer time to reach to a particular position. That is why we say lesser protein content will be there. It will take more time to move, right? So this is, a broad definition of this, that chylomicrons have more fat content, lesser protein content, and HDL has less fat content and more protein content. And this is how they are differentiated also, right? So how we can differentiate these 4 type of lipoproteins? There are 2 ways of differentiating them. One is electrophoretically, and second is by ultracentrifugation. Right. Now if we talk about electrophoretic separation, see again it is clear from the word itself, phoresis is movement in the presence of electric current. And whenever something moves in the presence of electric current, it is based on the ions, obviously ions, or you can say whether it is moving towards cations or anions depending upon positive and negative charges. And ultracentrifugation is obviously based on the basis of the density. Okay, so if we talk about this, always remember electrophoretic movement mein HDL is the fastest moving fraction, and if we see the movement towards anode, HDL moves in a fast way because it is having more protein content. Okay, so it will have a faster movement obviously, and that is why this HDL is known as a alpha fraction or the fastest moving fraction, followed by VLDL, which is known as a pre-beta fraction, followed by LDL, which is known as a beta fraction, followed by chylomicrons, because chylomicrons are so much full with fats that they will take very long time to reach towards anode. So this is the slowest moving fraction, and this is very important. Then coming over to ultracentrifugation. Ultracentrifugation mein again the basic concept you have to remember: high density, low density, very low density and chylomicrons. So if we look at this, the change will be only that HDL will be followed by LDL, will be followed by VLDL, and then will come the chylomicrons. So we can say that just by comparing the two movements, the two modes of separation, we can say that density is proportional to the movement, which means that more dense it is, more will be the movement, and it will be inversely proportional to the fat content. More fat content, less dense it would be, or vice versa. That is why we say that HDL is having maximum density, so it will have the maximum movement, and if in terms of fat content we say it will have least fat content, and that is why we say that this HDL is considered to be a good cholesterol. All of you must have heard about this. HDL is good cholesterol, whereas LDL is bad cholesterol. Right? So this is, you can say, a brief overview of the different type of lipoproteins. So here our main topic is the metabolism. So now we are going to focus what is the main metabolism involved, that how chylomicrons undergo degradation, because what is metabolism? If we look at this metabolism is catabolism, which is breakdown of something, and it is anabolism, which leads to synthesis of something. So kata means whenever the body requires energy, something is broken down. So catabolism leads to release of energy, and anabolism is when the body has surplus energy, then it leads to utilization of this energy to synthesize something, right? Now whenever here we are talking about the catabolism part, because whenever we are having the fats, whenever they enter into circulation, they will always require a carrier protein. And always remember, the metabolism of fats is actually, it is between intestines, the adipose tissue and the liver. Liver being the kitchen of the body, intestines from where the absorption occurs, and adipose tissue where obviously it is the storehouse of the fats. Right? So coming over to the metabolism of lipoproteins, there are two major pathways. One is exogenous pathway. Now exogenous pathway means that it is from the intestine to the liver, involving obviously the adipose tissue. right? And whenever we talk about the exogenous pathway, it is about the chylomicrons. Now these chylomicrons, just now I told you chylo means it is the intestinal juice. So whenever, always just keep it in mind, whenever we take a fatty rich diet, right, then if we see the lymphatic fluid, it will be white in color. Now why it will be white in color? Because of the increased concentration of the chylomicrons. Okay, so exogenous pathway is for about chylomicrons. Now this chylomicrons, the specific apoprotein for them is ApoB48. And one very important thing about this ApoB48 and ApoB100 is that these are the only two apoproteins which are synthesized in the body by a process known as RNA editing, or we can say processing. And the synthesis takes place in the liver and the intestines. So basically what happens is कि ApoB100 is being synthesized when a nonsense codon comes on the way, so a rest of the part is left as such, and that rest, the leftover part is nothing but ApoB48. Right? So ApoB48 will actually bind with chylomicrons and ApoB100 will bind with VLDL and LDL. So this is what is chylomicron, which is exogenous pathway. So now what happens is these chylomicrons, when they are starting, the course of absorption, they are known as simply nascent chylomicrons. So nascent chylomicron is which has just left the intestine, which will be having what? The specific ApoB48. Along with it, it will have little bit of phospholipids, it will have cholesterol, and it will start moving. So this nascent chylomicron, when it is moving, starts moving, it's like, when a child is born. When a child is born, when the child comes out from the womb, he starts developing the characteristics. So what happens is this nascent chylomicron, when it starts coming from the intestine, going towards the adipose tissue, then it will be known as mature chylomicron. Then from these, because mature chylomicrons are having high Tg content, and these mature chylomicrons, then some part will go to the adipose tissue and rest over will be remnant chylomicrons. And ultimately what we get is, now this is where the metabolism, you can say the beautification of metabolism lies. What is the leftover? The leftovers are the TGs itself. TGs which are formed of the fatty acid and glycerol, where again the actual metabolism will start. What will be the fate of the fatty acids? What will be the fate of glycerol? It is actually the main biochemical metabolism. So this is what? This is simply exogenous. What you have to remember in this is that exogenous between the intestines and the liver. Okay? And these chylomicrons are responsible for this exogenous pathway, right? And you can say the specific apoprotein is ApoB48. Then you can say the nascent chylomicrons are there, then mature chylomicrons, then the remainings are known as the remnant chylomicrons. And ultimately what we get is, we get the free fatty acids and glycerol which enter inside the cell and which undergoes again process of degradation depending upon the status of the body. Okay. Then another pathway is endogenous pathway. Now, if we talk about endogenous pathway, it starts from the liver to extrahepatic tissues. Endogenous pathway is which starts from the liver to the extrahepatic tissues, and it starts from VLDL, very low density lipoproteins, which synthesizes LDL, which is again accepted by the receptors. Right, now VLDL, when it is converted into LDL, it takes IDL as one of the intermediary density lipoprotein. And again what will happen is that LDL will be accepted by the receptors, and then it will undergo again a different process of degradation. But the only thing you have to remember is this LDL has a tendency to deposit cholesterol to the tissues. On the tissues. So if we talk about the metabolism of lipoproteins, you have to remember two pathways, exogenous pathway and endogenous pathway. Endogenous, it is between the liver and the extrahepatic tissues, and exogenous pathway, it is operative from the intestine to the liver following adipose tissue as an intermediate. Exogenous pathway में chylomicrons are involved, and in endogenous pathway VLDL is involved. Right? And then HDL. HDL has altogether a different way of metabolizing. The most important feature of this HDL is that it is responsible for reverse cholesterol transport. Very, very important. It is responsible for reverse cholesterol transport. Now, as it is clear from the word itself, if you just expand reverse cholesterol means LDL, just now I told you, if you look at the function of LDL, LDL is taking cholesterol from the liver and it is depositing this fat to extrahepatic tissues. On the other hand, this HDL, it will bring cholesterol from extrahepatic tissues to the liver, so that this cholesterol is degraded. And we all know that this cholesterol undergoes degradation to form so many important compounds. What are these? The most important one which is synthesized from cholesterol are the bile acids, which are required for the emulsification of fats. Right? Then it is required for the synthesis of vitamin D and other sex hormones. So that is why we say that HDL is actually responsible for this reverse cholesterol transport, which helps in bringing cholesterol from extrahepatic tissues to the liver. So this is a brief overview of the metabolism of lipoproteins. Right? Now what happens is कि just now I told you कि different apoproteins are required, different receptors are required to accept them. Just imagine like this, say this is the fat and this is a apoprotein and this is the cell membrane. So what happens is it comes here, it leaves the apoprotein behind, and what happens is the TGs enter inside the cell where they are broken into fatty acids and glycerol. So this is what is the basis. Now see, for example, if I say any receptor which is accepting this is absent. Any receptor which is accepting that fat molecule, if it is absent, there will be increase in the concentration of that particular lipoprotein, or there will be decrease in the concentration of the lipoprotein depending upon the nature of the receptor. So what happens if there is increase in the concentration of the lipoprotein? It is known as, they are known as hyperlipoproteinemias. And if there is decreased concentration of lipoprotein, they are known as hypolipoproteinemias. Right. So this we will be discussing in a separate video of hyperlipoproteinemias and hypolipoproteinemias. So this is what is the metabolism of lipoproteins. Then the main thing is what happens when the fatty acid and glycerol enters inside the cell. So again the actual metabolism of lipids will start, which is actually what? Again anabolism, right, and catabolism. Now if we talk about anabolism, it is known as lipogenesis. But if we talk about catabolism, it is known as lipolysis. Okay, so just now I told you that metabolism is actually of two types, catabolism and anabolism. Anabolism is synthesis of something and catabolism is destruction or breakdown of something. So that depends upon the status of the body, in which state of body it is, whether it is the well-fed state, whether it is the fasting state, or whether it is prolonged fasting, which we call as starvation also, right? So lipogenesis and lipolysis. Now the most important thing to remember about this is, because always keep one thing in mind, that biochemistry without regulation is nothing. Ultimately regulation is what? To what extent it is occurring in the body, whether it has to occur in the body or not, because if there is a change either in the catabolism or in the anabolism, it will lead to the diseases. Right? So this is very important. So if this synthesis is occurring, there is no question of breakdown of that particular thing or vice versa. That means if I say that lipogenesis is occurring in the body, lipolysis cannot occur. Or on the contrary, if lipolysis is working, lipogenesis will not work. So in today's video, we will be discussing genesis and lipolysis in detail along with the regulation. Right? So first of all, now see, if we talk about lipogenesis, always remember, keep one thing in mind, that it occurs during the well-fed state. And whenever anything works in a well-fed state, just keep this thing in mind, that it has to be a anabolic process. So it is anabolic in nature, right? Now comparing it with lipolysis, if lipogenesis is occurring in the well-fed state, lipolysis will occur in the during starvation. So during starvation means it will be catabolism, or it will be catabolic, right? Then again, very important thing which we have to remember in this is that where it occurs means site. So always remember, lipogenesis strictly takes place in the cytoplasm, whereas lipolysis takes place in the mitochondria. And वैसे भी all of you know that mitochondria are known as what? The powerhouses of the cell. So whatever related to energy processes are there, it is the mitochondria. It is the seat of respiration. So obviously breakdown will take place in the presence of oxygen, so it has to be exclusively in mitochondria, right? So these are the three important point of differences between genesis and lipolysis. Now we are going to discuss these processes one by one. So first of all, let's take lipogenesis. Now see, it is clear from the word itself, genesis. Genesis means synthesis, right? So we can say that lipogenesis is defined as a process of synthesis of, lipo means lipid, so synthesis of fat. Because most of the students get confused between fat and a fatty acid. So just try to remember fat is what? It is formed of fatty acid and glycerol. Whenever a fat is broken, it will be broken into 3 molecules of fatty acid and glycerol. So it's the fatty acid which is making a fat. Okay? So genesis or lipogenesis is the process of synthesis of fat or lipid. Because technically, or you can say in medical terminology, we call it what? As TGs or triglycerides. Then where it occurs? It occurs in the cytoplasm, just now I told you. Now one very important thing about this is what is the precursor. Precursor mane from where? What is the source? कहाँ से आता है ये? So the precursor of fat is acetyl coenzyme A. Always remember this. So if I ask you, what is the precursor of fat? Immediately it is acetyl coenzyme A. Okay? So precursor is this. Now see, what happens is, just now I told you it occurs in the cytoplasm. Precursor is acetyl coenzyme A. अब acetyl coenzyme A कहाँ पे बन रहा है? It is coming. What is the source of acetyl coenzyme A? The source of acetyl coenzyme A, the first and the most important source is pyruvic acid. And pyruvic acid is coming from anaerobic glycolysis or glycolysis, that is from glucose. ठीक है? So acetyl coenzyme A की synthesis कहाँ पे हो रही है? It is being synthesized in the mitochondria. But fat has to be synthesized in the cytoplasm. So that means we can say that जो precursor है fat की synthesis का, जो mitochondria में present है, वो कहाँ जाएगा? It has to be transported from the mitochondria to the cytoplasm so that it can undergo the synthesis of fats. So we can say, if we talk about the steps, what would be the first step? First step has to be the transport. किसका transport? Of acetyl coenzyme A. कहाँ पे? कहाँ से? From the mitochondria. कहाँ पे? To the cytoplasm. So this becomes the first step. Now the question arises, if we look at this will be the first step. Transport. Now see, if I talk about this step only, this acetyl coenzyme A is impermeable to the mitochondrial membrane. Suppose I'll just, this is the mitochondria and say this is the cytoplasm. Right? So here what is happening, this acetyl coenzyme A, which is coming from pyruvic acid, okay, is combining with oxaloacetic acid to form citrate, because mitochondria mein this TCA cycle or citric acid cycle is going on. Now this precursor has to be transported from the mitochondria to the cytosol. A problem with this is that it is impermeable. It is impermeable. So the target is citric acid. Citric acid being permeable to the mitochondrial membrane, it will be transported outside like this. And this citric acid, when it comes back to the cytoplasm, it will split up. And the best interesting thing about this is it will split up into its parent compounds from where it is being synthesized. Now come back to the mitochondria. You can see that acetyl coenzyme A combines with oxaloacetic acid forming citric acid. So obviously citric acid has to be broken into acetyl coenzyme A and oxaloacetic acid. Now one very important thing I just want to tell you here is always remember what is this CoA. This CoA is nothing but it is vitamin B5, pantothenic or pantotheniine. So there is always a separate pool of this SH-CoA in the cytoplasm as well as mitochondria. So this citric acid which is being transported from the mitochondria to the cytoplasm undergoes splitting to form this acetyl coenzyme A, and this pool of coenzyme A is contributing to this SH-CoA. And here the enzyme is ATP citrate lyase. So what we get is we get this acetyl coenzyme A and we get this oxaloacetic acid. So ultimately our target is to get acetyl coenzyme A, which is the precursor of fats. So this is the first step, transport of acetyl coenzyme A from the mitochondria to the cytoplasm. And why this happens? Because acetyl coenzyme A is impermeable to the mitochondrial membrane. So it will be converted into citric acid which is being permeable to the membrane, and it will be transported to the cytoplasm where it will split up into acetyl CoA and oxaloacetic acid, and we get acetyl coenzyme A in the cytoplasm so that it can undergo the synthesis of fats in the well-fed state. So now this is the first step. Second step will be this acetyl coenzyme A has to, because we are synthesizing something, lipogenesis, we have to increase the number of carbon atoms. And whenever we have to increase the number of carbon atoms, the process is known as carboxylation. I'll just come to that. So this acetyl coenzyme A will now undergo carboxylation. So the second step is acetyl coenzyme A carboxylation. Now see, what is happening is we are adding one molecule of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide. So enzyme, if we talk about the enzyme will be carboxylase. Obviously because it is catalyzing carboxylation. किसकी carboxylation? Acetyl coenzyme A की carboxylation. So it will be acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase. Right? And always remember that enzyme cannot work generally alone. It always requires a coenzyme. And the coenzyme for carboxylation is biotin, which is vitamin B7. So this reaction means carboxylation of acetyl coenzyme A will require the enzyme. Enzyme is acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase and the coenzyme is B7. Always remember one thing in the mind, in our body, approximately 80% of carboxylation reactions take place in the presence of B7. Only one or two reactions are there which does not require biotin for carboxylation. Right? So enzyme is this, coenzyme is this. And if we look at the reaction is acetyl coenzyme A will be converted into malonyl CoA. कार्बोक्सिलेशन हो गई, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, एसिटाइल कोएंजाइम में हाउ मेनी कार्बन एटम्स इट हैज, 2 कार्बन एटम्स. Malonyl CoA, one more is added, it will have 3 carbon atoms. And always remember, whenever we talk about carboxylation reactions, just remember one principle, ABC. Now, what is this ABC? A stands for ATP because it requires ATP. B stands for biotin because I told you biotin is for carboxylation, and C stands for bicarbonate ions. Bicarbonate ions which are giving obviously 1 carbon. So, these are the 3 major ingredients of this reaction. Right? So, the reaction is carboxylation, enzyme is acetyl coenzyme carboxylase, coenzyme is biotin forming malonyl coenzyme A. Right? And since we have to synthesize palmitic acid, because in our body it is stored as palmitic acid, and you know how many carbon atoms palmitic acid has? It has 16 carbon atoms. So, from a 2 carbon generating a 16 carbon species, this process is known as de novo. So, we can say that this lipogenesis is de novo. ठीक है, de novo का मतलब ही क्या हुआ कि from a 2 carbon species we are generating 16 carbon atoms. अभी right now we have generated only 3 carbon atoms. Now it is very interesting generating a 16 carbon species from just a 2 carbon species with the help of only enzymes. So lipogenesis is strictly a de novo process occurring in the cytoplasm, right? So now next will be, this is the second step. So we can say that this acetyl coenzyme A has formed a species which has 3 carbon atoms, which is malonyl CoA. So the third step is the synthesis, the major synthesis, and it is very interesting to know that after these 2 steps, the entire function is taken over by fatty acid synthase complex, which is also known as FAS, FAS, which is an ideal example of a multi-enzyme complex. See, if we talk about our body, there are so many enzymes which are an example of multi-enzyme complex. One is this FAH, second is PDH, then is alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase and alpha ketoacid decarboxylase, which is required for branch chain amino acids. So there are 4 important examples of multi-enzyme complex, but here we are dealing only with the synthesis of fats, so we will stick only to fatty acid synthase complex. Now, why it is known as a multi-enzyme complex? You know how its structure looks like? It looks like a frisbee where it has 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and it has 2 active sites. This is known as ACP. ACP stands for acyl carrier protein. Right? And this ACP has 2 active sites. One is cysteine SH, another is pan SH. Right? If we talk about cysteine SH, you know cysteine is the sulfur containing amino acid which has a sulfhydryl group. Pan stands for pantothenic acid. Pantothenic acid is nothing but vitamin B5. So pantothenic SH. So now the question arises, within this infrastructure, how we are synthesizing 16 carbon atom from 2 carbon atoms. And the best part is, you have to imagine this, what is happening inside, that this cysteine SH will accept acetyl-CoA, pan SH will accept malonyl-CoA. Acetyl coenzyme, which is the precursor, malonyl-CoA, which is being synthesized. Now we know that acetyl coenzyme has how many carbon atoms? 2 carbon atoms. Malonyl-CoA has 3 carbon atoms. So how the reaction goes? Now this is again very interesting. What will happen is, this acetyl coenzyme A, this 2 carbon species will be transferred to 3 carbon species. So what will happen? 5 carbon atoms, and in this 5 carbon atoms, 1 molecule of carbon will be given out in the form of carbon dioxide. So we will be left with only 4 carbon atoms. So we started with 2 carbon atoms, we end up with 4 carbon atoms. So now this will move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So it will move in the vicinity of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There will be so many changes, like hydrogenation will be there, dehydration will be there. So when this will leave this, what we will have? We will have a 4 carbon species. Okay, so we can say that 4 carbon species has again come. Now this pan SH will accept fresh malonyl-CoA, malonyl-CoA. Again, how many carbon atoms? 3 carbon atoms. We have already synthesized a acyl coenzyme A with 4 carbon atoms. Now this 4 carbon atoms now will be transferred to 3 carbon atoms. कितने carbon atoms हो गए? 7 carbon atoms हो गए. Again 1 carbon atom will be given out like this. So what we will be left with? 6 carbon atoms. So we started with 2, we ended with 6. Again it will move in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again what will happen? The next cycle will be there, in which this pan SH will again accept this fresh malonyl-CoA. So this will keep on going unless and until it undergoes some cycles. Now coming over to the parent one, we started with 2 carbon atoms and we have to synthesize what? We have to synthesize 16 carbon atoms, because our body is having what? Our body is having this palmitic acid. So what happens is, this 2 carbon atom, it undergoes 7 cycles overall to synthesize 1 molecule of palmitic acid which has 16 carbon atoms. And the entire this function is taken over by this fatty acid synthase complex. Very, very important. And this is known as de novo synthesis, because from a smaller species we are generating a bigger species. So this is what is lipogenesis. So if I have to summarize this, I will just summarize it in 3 steps. Okay, if I talk about this lipogenesis, we can say that only 3 steps are there. First step is transport, right? Second step is carboxylation, and third step is fatty acid synthase complex. So with the help of these 3 steps, we synthesize 1 molecule of palmitic acid. Now, before starting up with this, I told you one very important thing, that what is regulation. Again, biochemistry without regulation is nothing. So we have to strictly concentrate on the regulating step. Now regulating step is nothing but a rate limiting step. ठीक है. Now what is a rate limiting enzyme? The question arises. Rate limiting enzyme, as the word suggests, it is limiting the rate of a particular reaction. So if you look at all the three steps in transport, there is nothing has to be limited. In case if we talk about fatty acid synthase complex, it is a complex. It has 6 activities which are taking place. Again, they cannot be limited. The only step will be carboxylation. And that is what exactly happens. Rate limiting enzyme here is acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase. Always remember, acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase is the rate limiting enzyme of lipogenesis, which is very, very important from examination point of view. This is the most frequently asked question, the rate limiting enzyme of fatty acid synthesis. And why it is rate limiting? If you look at the action, you can see that here this acetyl coenzyme A is forming malonyl-CoA, right? So increased concentration of malonyl-CoA will inhibit its own synthesis. That is why it is rate limiting, and this is simply feedback inhibition. Right? So we can say that if we talk about regulation, or if we talk about the rate limiting enzyme of lipogenesis, it is acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase. Increased concentration of malonyl-CoA will start inhibiting its own synthesis. And then, okay, this is what? This is simply regulation. Now, the most important thing, what is the hormonal regulation? If we talk about hormonal regulation, always remember one thing, that insulin, glucagon, these are the two very, very important hormones which work antagonistically for be it carbs metabolism, be it fatty acid metabolism. Now, looking at this, always remember insulin is a anabolic hormone, right? So insulin will always promote lipogenesis. It will activate lipogenesis. Now, just now I told you glucagon is an antagonistic hormone. So if insulin is promoting, glucagon will inhibit lipogenesis. Right? So this is hormonal regulation, and this is simply the regulation of the lipogenesis, that increased concentration of malonyl-CoA will start inhibiting its own production, which is either feedback inhibition or it is also known as product inhibition. Right? So this is how we summarize lipogenesis, which is strictly a anabolic process occurring by de novo process, right, and occurring in the cytoplasm, and where the rate limiting enzyme is acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase. And we normally say that seven cycles are required to synthesize one molecule of palmitic acid, because in our body mainly palmitic acid is stored, or you can say in the form of palmitoyl esters. Now once the synthesis of fats starts, then after that, if it has to be, elongation is there, then elongation takes place. And if we have to introduce the double bonds, because you know that unsaturated fats are also synthesized except 3 fatty acids linoleic, linolenic and arachidonic acid, because you can say no enzyme machinery is there which can incorporate double bonds at that particular position, except that unsaturated are again produced and they are taken to the microsomes, they are taken to the endoplasmic reticulum for further elongation. So, this is how lipogenesis takes place. Now, after this, we will be discussing totally an antagonistic process, which is lipolysis. Okay. So, this is all about lipogenesis.